Hello everyone, I hope you're all doing very well. I'm constantly being asked by, you guys, how much does it cost to get into DCS World? And it's it's an impossible thing to answer. I always say, to be honest, it costs as much as you want to spend. You can spend as little or as much as you want to spend. So what I'm going to try and do today is to break it down as empirically as we can. And yes, we will have to take some averages and stuff like that, but as best we can, how much it costs to get into DCS World with all of the gear, assuming that you don't have the gear that you're going to need to run it optimally. So welcome to the Cost of DCS World Full Setup 2020 Summer. Note in this, all are new products. There is nothing being bought on the second-hand market, which would obviously take the price down if you wanted to do that. First thing we need is a gaming PC. We cannot do it without a gaming PC. We've split it into three categories. Absolute minimum that you can play with, and if you turn the graphics down and stuff like that and don't want to do big multiplayer games and stuff like that. Enjoyable, and I've taken my actual PC at the moment as an example of enjoyable. So you can turn your settings up, not all the way up maybe, but up, and enjoy big multiplayer games and stuff like that. And then top or overkill, as we like to call it. It just so happens that I'm in the market for a new PC at the moment, and so I've got these prices fairly nailed down. So if we went to eBuyer, I know you're going to see this in pounds, but you can convert 0.8 to 1. According to the spec given out by Eagle Dynamics, which we've quoted in this case, then something around the basically less than $800. I know these guys here are going to run DCS on a kind of minimum setup. Next, enjoyable, and we've taken my computer I've got here, an i5K with a 1080 NVIDIA card, 32 gig of RAM. I can enjoy DCS. At the moment I can play 50-player multiplayer games, and I can have my settings at kind of 90%, something like that. This kind of range here, we've got an i5 here with a GTX 1060. I can't find one with a 1080 anywhere, so I think that's about as close as I'm going to get. Well, you'd need to add some RAM actually, but all of the 32 gig of RAM only cost 150 quid, so it's not a great deal. It's going to be about $1,200, $1,300, and that's what we would consider as an enjoyable spec for a DCS tower. Next is the top overkill. I've been looking for a new PC recently because I really need to be able to run DCS at its full settings, which I can't quite do at the moment. And I need to stop the stuttering that I'm just about starting to get with a $1,200, $1,300 PC. Now, it's perfectly fine to play with, but for making movies, you've got to have it, because I've run multiple programs at once, I need to improve. So I'm going to go for something around this range, the i9 with 8 cores. I'm just going to buy some more RAM, and it's so cheap it doesn't really change the price much. A 2080 Ti and so on, about £2,100, about $2,500, something along those lines delivered. And you can go all the way up to $5,000 plus for a super duper tower. So that's $2,500 to $5,000 plus peripherals for the top absolute overkill. And I'm hoping my PC at $2,500 will be future proof for the next 4 or 5 years. Next, head tracker. Technically, you don't have to have a head tracker. I played DCS for a year or so without a head tracker when I was very, very poor, and I just used one of the control hats on my Thrustmaster X to move the head around. However, really, to play DCS properly, we suggest you should have some kind of head tracker, especially with a high fidelity module. Almost impossible without a head tracker. So there are different categories of head tracker. We've got DIY IR tracker, which is very popular at the moment, and that's what I've had for 4 years now. Is what I started with, and it's what I've still got. We've got official track IR, and we've got a virtual reality headset. DIY track IR, we've got the prices from D-Land Clip of about $55, and Grass Monkey, we've got $75. Grass Monkey comes with extra stuff, and it is cordless, I think. Track IR, the official one's about $150, which is just a bit more of a professional version of this, but otherwise more or less the same. And VR is about $300 to $2,000, depending on how good you want. Note, if you're going to have VR, you will need a better computer. So for instance, this is very enjoyable at the moment for non-VR. If I were to go for VR, maybe that computer wouldn't be good enough. I'm not sure. I haven't actually tried it, but it's just something to bear in mind. You know what? Even with my £2,500 computer, I'm probably just going to keep my D-Land Clip Track IR. It's never gone wrong. It's so simple. The software's free, And I just don't see any reason to go, VR just doesn't suit me as a video maker. It's very hard for me to constantly nip into Windows, which I need to do. Track IR, I've actually got a couple of Track IRs that people have just given me, which is very nice, but I just like my DIY IR tracker. Next is a controller. Technically, yes, you can play DCS with the keyboard, unless it's literally your first plane and that's a very cheap plane. Otherwise, I wouldn't recommend a keyboard. You really need some kind of controller. At the minimum, I would say an Xbox 360 controller. It's $30, which isn't very much, and it gives you some analog controls and that which you really need to fly an aircraft, and it's perfectly fine. Again, if you're going to go into a complex $80 plane at some point, I would really suggest going to a Hotas because you're going to start struggling with the controller, but it's a perfectly acceptable start point. Next is a cheap Hotas. Think Thrustmaster X, think up to a Thrustmaster T16000M. So that includes the thrust stick on the left and the control stick on the right and all the buttons and whatnot. And we found new from $80 to $150. Next is our medium to high range Hotas, and we've gone from X56, which is what I use at the moment, up to about $500 for a Warthog, which I've got as well, up to the really super expensive ones of just over $1,000. Next is software. And all this, we've had a good look, and all the software seems to be free. DCS software is free, and it also comes with a couple of free planes, by the way. Let's have a look on my dashboard just to have a quick look. TacView, I've paid for mine, but you can get it for free if you want. SRS is just free. You can donate if you want, but it's just free. And other OpenTrack, all these other accessory programs we run with DCS. If you want to run them, you don't have to have them, but if you want to run, everything's free, which is great. It's all good. Mainly community stuff. And that leads us on to modules. So there are a bunch of free planes you can get. It comes with a couple of free planes. I mean, it depends how good a plane you want to get, but there are some good planes like the A4 that's for free, the MB339 is for free, and there are a bunch of not so good planes like the VSN. I mean, they're fun, go and use them, but there's about 20 different VSN mods that come out for free, so you can use them. For the proper official planes, starter planes, known as Flaming Cliffs 3, are $15, I think, normally each. $50 for 6 of them. You can get a pack, or if you get them in a sale, and there's a sale every 4 or 5 times a year now, then you can get them for half price, $7.50, which is basically nothing. For a full fidelity plane, which is what most of you go for, most of you want the Hornet, you want the F-16, and that's fine. You know, you want what you want. That's going to be between a full price, between $40 and $80, depending on which full fidelity plane you want. Again, remember, if you catch it at sale, I try and do my buying at sales, then you get them for half price. Maps, you don't need any maps. The free maps are perfectly acceptable, but if you wanted them, again, about $40 to $80, and they come half price at the sale times. And that comes to the total. And yes, you can just have 3 planes, or you can just have 1 starter plane. But I've said a realistic total is if you wanted at least 1 full fidelity plane, like a Hornet or a Tomcat or whatever, then your total, assuming you buy outside of a sale, is going to be $80 to $2,000. If you want everything like me, DCS for me is also about collecting the different planes, collecting the different maps. You can go all the way up to about $2,000. I haven't added that up properly, but that's probably not far off what everything is now. So let's try and convert that into some actual useful figures at the end of that. Totals, assuming what we've said before, and that you already have a PC, but none of the flight related gear like sticks and controllers and head trackers and software. If you're absolute cheap ass, then you can have your PC cost plus $55 to $75, because I would still, even if you're a cheap ass, suggest a Track IR variant, plus at least an Xbox controller at $30, and then you can just go and use the free planes. That means the total investment in DCS, including a PC, is $85 to $105. Next, the average guy, the average gamer. So this is me, basically. I'm not a super rich guy, as you're fully aware. I'm just the average guy that wants to fly DCS and get it to run decently. The cost of your PC, for me, it was $1,200, I think, when I bought it, a little bit more. $55 to $75, because I find a DIY IR tracker, it's not fashionable, but to be honest, it just works fine. For the controller, I would suggest somewhere between a cheap Hotas and a low range medium. So for instance, I've got a Warthog, but I'm actually still using the X56. That's a low range medium at the moment, and you can fly perfectly fine and enjoy that. There's no problems with it. And I've assumed that I want 3 high fidelity modules of an average cost, plus 1 FC3 plane. It's just a good average setup that the average guy might want. And that's going to give me a total cost of DCS World of $330 to $520 plus my PC. So the average guy that wants a few planes and some relatively decent gear, $330 to $520. And then there's the top gamer, and this one's just for fun. There's quite a few out there that want the top stuff. So you need your PC, which is going to be very expensive. Probably your VR, I imagine. High range Hotas, so 250 to 1030. You're going to need your VR, 300 to 2000. And you're going to need all of the modules ever made at full price, all outside of sale of 2000. And just for fun, it means you can spend $2,550 to $5,030 plus your amazing $5,000 PC. It's about £10,000 you can spend if you really want. So that there is my summary, depending who you are, how much money have you got, what you need to get into DCS World. I hope you enjoyed it and see you later.